Hey guys, welcome back to another brand new video and thanks so much for tuning in. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 ways that you can get started investing almost immediately with just £1,000. Everything I'm going to share with you is super simple to set up and won't take a ton of your time to get started with, so you really could be putting your money to work for you right away and getting one step closer towards achieving your financial goals. If you find this video helpful, then please don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps me out by letting me know which videos you're enjoying so that I can then create similar content for you in the future. So the first way to invest your £1,000 would be to invest in index funds. These are funds which basically hold a basket of underlying investments that are then designed to track the performance of a given market index, such as the S&P 500. So the manager of an S&P 500 index fund goes out and buys up shares in all of the companies that make up that market index, or a representative example of those companies, and then they hold all of these shares within the index fund. That allows investors like you and I to simply buy into the one index fund rather than having to go out and buy shares from the hundreds of individual companies within the index in an effort to try and replicate that index ourselves, which would be both very time consuming and very expensive. Investing in an index fund gives you access to a really wide selection of companies with just one simple investment, so it can be a really great way to diversify your investments and lower your risk, whilst also giving you access to some really strong companies. Whilst the actual returns do of course vary from year to year, the average return of the S&P 500 has historically been about 10%, which equates to around about 7% when adjusted for inflation. And an S&P 500 index fund is generally seen as the easiest way of gaining exposure to the overall returns of the stock market. You can invest in an index fund through a couple of different ways. So the first would be to go the traditional route of setting up an account directly with an index fund provider and investing your money with them that way. But the second way would be to invest in an ETF version of an index fund. So an ETF is an exchange traded fund. And that means that instead of dealing with the fund provider directly, you would invest in the fund on the stock market via your brokerage account in the same way that you would buy shares in individual companies. Many large index fund providers offer both traditional index funds and ETF versions of them, so the choice really is completely yours when it comes to how you'd prefer to invest. The main differences are that traditional index funds often have a minimum lump sum investment requirement, and also the price that you can buy or sell those funds at is calculated at the end of each day based on the net asset value of the underlying investments. Whereas with an ETF version of an index fund, there's no minimum investment amount, and because it's traded on the stock exchange just like any other stock, the price can fluctuate throughout the day based on different market factors. I've got another video over on the channel which dives into index funds in a lot more detail, so I'll pop a link to that one down in the description in case it's of interest to you. The second way to invest £1,000 would be to invest in real estate investment trusts, which are also known as REITs. REITs are companies that either own, operate, or finance income-producing real estate. And they do this across a number of different property sectors like office space, apartment buildings, warehouses, and even hotels. Most REITs make their money through renting out space in the properties that they own, which then generates rental income, which can in turn be paid out to investors in the form of dividends. This gives investors the ability to invest into the real estate sector with very little money and without having to go out and buy, manage, or finance a physical property. Most REITs trade on major stock exchanges and can be purchased through a brokerage account in the same way as any other stocks are. And in fact, there are also ETF versions of REITs available too, so you could choose to invest in an ETF version of a REIT if you prefer to go down that route. One of the major benefits to REITs is that they're actually required to pay out at least 90% of their taxable income to their shareholders, so they can be a really great way of locking in reliable returns on your investment. This means that REITs tend to be favoured by investors that are looking for income from their investment. But it's also true that property values do tend to increase over time as well, so there is the real potential to benefit from longer term capital growth too. So if you have £1,000 to invest and you want to gain exposure to real estate related investments without a high cost or time investment involved on your part, then real estate investment trusts might be something worth considering for you. And now the third way to invest your £1,000 would be to invest it in starting your own side hustle. I thought long and hard about whether to include this one in the video because it's not a traditional type of investment where you would put down your £1,000 and then let the market work its magic for you. But I decided it was really important to include this because whilst it is a less passive type of investment, the returns that you could potentially make from doing this could far exceed any returns that you could make from the other more traditional ways of investing. There are so many different things that you could do to make money on this road. So I'm going to put together another video in the future that's completely dedicated to this topic. But in the meantime, a couple of ideas that you could have a think about are things like starting an Amazon business or growing a YouTube channel. Both of these are things that you can get started in for £1,000 or less. And they will both take a lot of your time up front before you start seeing any returns from that investment. But the potential for future growth can be absolutely huge. And if you really take it seriously and put in the time, this could end up replacing your 9-to-5 job and bringing in more money for you than you ever thought possible. There are so many examples of people that have succeeded in doing both of these things and are now generating serious amounts of money. And it can all start with a really small monetary investment, as long as you're committed and prepared to put in the time to give yourself the best chance at success. Of all the investments that you could make, in my opinion, this one has by far and away the most potential, because what you're really doing is investing into yourself. And for that reason, you have complete and total control over how hard you work to make it a success. And from my experience with YouTube so far, it's also a hugely rewarding process to go through on a personal level. Because not only do I get to share things that I feel can genuinely help other people, but it also pushes me to keep learning more all the time so that I can keep uploading and sharing new videos with you every single week. So those are the 3 ways to invest £1,000 that I wanted to share with you today. But it is also worth mentioning that whilst all 3 of these ideas can be really good ways to invest, if you're in a position where you have debts that are charging you a high interest rate, then it may well be that the best investment you could make right now would be to pay down that debt as fast as possible. For example, if you have a credit card balance and your card is charging you the average UK credit card interest rate of 22.5%, then you're far better off paying that balance down as soon as possible as opposed to investing your money elsewhere, because you would need to be generating more than that 22.5% on your investments in order to make it worthwhile. And returns like that are going to be really hard to find, especially in the short term. So there you have it. I really hope you learned something new here, and do feel free to leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of today's video. Also, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. It only takes a couple of seconds to do, but it really does help me out and it helps the channel to grow and reach more people too. I post a brand new video here on the channel every single week. So if you want to be among the first to be notified when a new video drops, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also turn those notifications on by clicking the bell icon down below, and you'll then be notified as and when new videos are released. As always, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you right back here next time.